I kept thinking of Masta Ace's classic Disposable Arts as I kept listening to my next two guests' album. I wasn't thinking that they obviously copied the album. I just was amazed to hear something that connected in such a way that was a complete album. Each track is together, woven perfectly. The skits support the song supports the skits. The beats are amazing. The voice of the MC is amazing. The album's called Breukelen Story. With that, I want to welcome Marco Polo and Masta Ace to the library with Tim Einenkel. Thanks.
What's going on, Tim?
Epic intro.
Clap it up, y'all.
Yeah.
There we go. Come on.
And thank you for comparing it to Disposable because that is my favorite Masta Ace album. So that's dope.
No, of course. So the album obviously starts out with a conversation with you and your dad about moving to Brooklyn.
Yes.
I am a Washington Heights kid, so I'm going to take offense to that. No, just joking. Why Brooklyn? Like, I mean, what is, a kid from Canada? Is it just thinking about Brooklyn?
I mean, there was a couple other pieces in the puzzle of the journey, but why I ended up in Brooklyn is really I needed a place to live. And it was like what's available through my small network of people, and a friend of a friend just said basically, I have a friend, he has a room. At that point, I didn't need to hear anything else. It was yes. Where do I sign up? I am about to be homeless in New York. I have an internship at the studio, and I ended up in the downtown Brooklyn area, and I've been there literally since 2002.
What were your first impressions when you got to Brooklyn, from a personal standpoint, but also from a music standpoint?
Fear is the first one, just because living in the suburbs of Toronto, Canada, which is definitely, you don't have to think about certain things. And then my introduction to hip hop, and through the music, just learning about New York, there's a bit of like, they paint a picture.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so when I got there, my neighborhood seemed cool, but it's a big park there. My roommate, who was born and raised there all his life, was telling me the stories of every night them pulling bodies out of Fort Greene Park, but now I'm looking in the park and I'm seeing people walking their dogs. I'm seeing kids. So things were changing, but I definitely had my guard up when I first moved to New York. And when I first moved to New York, there was even a different energy going to concerts and rap shows. I felt like I would go to shows, and at any moment, sometimes something could happen, which is so different than how it is now. So fear mixed with excitement, to sum it up.
Ace, what's your earliest memory of Brooklyn for you? I mean, for your personal, but also for your music.
Well, my earliest memories of Brooklyn is my childhood. That's my entire childhood. I was born and raised in Brownsville, Brooklyn. It's all I knew. I didn't know about a world outside of Brooklyn. I didn't know about other boroughs. I mean, I heard about them, but I had never visited any other boroughs. And my neighborhood was really all that I had to go by. And so I thought that all of Brooklyn was the same way. We played different games in the neighborhood, and we had tons of fun as kids. There was a swimming pool in our projects right behind the building, so we went to the pool during the summertime. Literally every day we were in there for 3 hours, 4 hours. Playing around in the swimming pool, and then the DJ around dusk, the DJ would bring out equipment out into the basketball court and set up turntables and big giant bass bottom speakers and start playing music. And
What year was that?
Man, that was probably 78, 79.
So you weren't hearing rap songs, you were hearing disco and breaks
Disco.
and stuff like that.
Straight disco. Good times, bounce, rock, skate, joints like that. And the older kids, because I was too old to really be in the park, so I would be on the outside looking through the fence, and the older kids were in the park dancing, smoking weed, just partying, like afros. Everybody had afros.
I have a question now. Did you ever, because one of a classic New York thing in my mind is when you go on a block and you see the fire hydrant unscrewed and water spraying and kids playing in it. Did you guys do that? Did you know how
I personally didn't
Probably
do
as
that.
a kid, you didn't have the technology.
No,
to
I
make
mean
that
it was happening directly in front of my building, but it was like a no-no. And so my grandmother was very much a stickler for rules and regulations, and
But somebody did it.
that was illegal. So I would literally sit in my window, 7th floor, and look right down at all these kids, shirtless kids, running around through this gushing fire hydrant, and there was this technique where they would take like a can from the pantry, like a beans can, and they would cut the top off and the bottom off, so it would create a tube, and they would put the can in front of this gushing hydrant and make the water go up into the air.
Ah.
I don't know if you remember, there was a scene in a Spike Lee movie, Do the Right Thing, where the Italian dudes was coming through with this really nice car, and he's like, "Hey, hold that water." And then they're like, "Okay," and he sits on the pump and lets the water go down, and then as soon as he starts to go in the convertible, they let it go and shoot the water into his car. Well, that happened like right in front of my building a couple times.
And the great words of my father, he said, "Necessity is the mother of invention."
It was hot, and yeah, it was hot, and dudes wanted to cool off, and you had to pay to get into the swimming pool, so it was like 50 cents or something.
That was big money back then.
25 cents to get into the pool. If you didn't have money, you had to open a hydrant.
Yep.
Or the Johnny pump, as they called it.
Okay. So that was a New York thing. I wasn't wrong for thinking that.
No, it was.
Because now it's gotten harder because they've actually put in like real locks on the
Oh,
tops
yeah.
and stuff
They
like
had to
that.
lock 'em up.
And rightfully so.
And now you have to have the firemen
No
come
point in
to-
wasting water.
And it would lower the water pressure, so if there was a fire in the area, the fire department couldn't use their hoses as effectively if those pumps were
Of course.
Yeah.
lowering the pressure.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Off track, sorry.
So obviously you've known Brooklyn for much longer
My life.
than
My whole
for your
life.
whole life. You've
Ace
only
is Brooklyn.
known 18 years. Brooklyn for you has changed a bunch.
Definitely.
Brooklyn for you has also probably changed a
Absolutely.
bunch.
If it's changed for me, I can only imagine for Ace.
How has that change kind of do you think affected your creativity in terms of like and even future artists' creativity? How has that change actually affected them, if it has at all?
I don't know. I guess kids are going to rap about coffee now. I don't know. You know,
Americano life. Yeah, I don't know. It's, you know what, I use, what's that artist's name with the Panda song? And that's no shots to him.
Designer.
That was the first time where I realized that, because to me, when you say New York, I'm going to associate it with a sound. And if you played me Designer's music, I would have no idea he was from Brooklyn.
Right.
That's
true.
So the moment I found out he was from Brooklyn, I realized things had changed in terms of whatever I thought the New York sound was. It essentially could be true in my mind, but it has changed drastically because you can have artists that literally sound like they could be from anywhere,
Right.
you know? And so, yeah, that hit me hard when I figured out he was from Brooklyn. I was like, whoa.
Some of that is, to me, is based on what New York radio has turned into, because these kids, they grow up on what they hear on the radio. They're 5, 6, 7 years old. They're listening to a certain type of music, and that's what's on the radio. That's the commercially available music to listen to, and so they were raised when Designer was probably a kid. They were probably playing nothing but down south music on the radio, and that's all he heard. And so this new generation of young spitters in Brooklyn and New York City, period, they were raised on a down south sound, the trap sound. So if you listen to these kids, they bringing you their demos, or they're sending you their SoundCloud. It's all trap beats because that's what they were raised on. That's New York. That's New York radio's fault. Though.
Shouts to Marlon Craft. You can read the back of my hoodie.
Take New York back, no doubt.
There you
Hashtag.
On the track, actually, I'm gonna get into that. On the track Kings, you guys addressed this issue, the argument between two generations.
Yeah.
It's been an ongoing argument. It happened with the older generation for you, older generation for you. Now we become the older generation, right? So we don't want to look like we're shitting on younger people's music.
Right.
How is there a way of getting these two generations on the same page when it comes to talking about hip hop music?
For me, I think it's having a mutual respect and open-mindedness to at least hear each other. It's just to have a discussion, to start there, listen to both sides, and basic stuff for me is just dialogue.
Yeah. He said it. He hit it right on the head. It starts with that. It starts with conversation and dialogue. The song with me and Marlon Craft on the album, which is called "Wannabe," is kind of like, to me, that dialogue between two generations, the conversation. My generation, a lot of us tend to be very close-minded to all new music. It's like, and we put it all in one big pile. Oh, that's all garbage. It's all garbage, and it's not all garbage. A lot of it is garbage, but you got to be willing to take the time to kind of sift through the garbage and find good stuff. And you got to open your mind to it. Otherwise, the dialogue ends right there. Because the young people, they're gonna be the same way. A lot of them, they're like, oh, that's y'all. That's that old stuff. We ain't into that. We on something new. We on a new wave. But they got to be willing to be open-minded too. And I think some summits, some panels, some conversations can lead us down a better path of understanding.
Yeah, people are they have fear about change. This applies to everything that people they're not familiar with. It's automatically this feeling of hatred. I don't know what that is, so it's bad, and fuck it. And so, yeah, definitely having a conversation would be helpful. Because there's a lot of new stuff out there that's dope to me. Like, I don't hate on everything. A lot of it doesn't speak to me, but there's some kids doing some really, really creative stuff.
What was the conversation like? I mean, prior to making this track, Kings. I mean, how did the concept come about?
That was straight me kind of making some beats with Ace in mind, and that was all him coming up with that concept.
I heard the beat, and it spoke to me in a certain way, and I really believe that most of my songs, my best songs, write themselves. I hear the beat, and it immediately transports me someplace, takes me right into the first line of the song, and something about the mood and energy of the beat make me write words that fit what I'm hearing when I hear the beat. And so the Kings joint was no different. I heard the beat, and it just spoke to me in a certain way, and it started off as in my mind, it started off as like I was gonna kind of just spit, but then as I started writing a couple of lines, it turned into a little bit more of a socially conscious, communally conscious vibe, and I went where the beat took me, and it took me someplace other than just spitting straight rhymes.
Marco, I think the great thing about this album is that all your beats fit Ace's voice perfectly.
Thank you.
From a producer point of view, especially with Ace, is there kind of a beat or sound that just wouldn't work with him? I mean,
I make tons of beats that Ace might even say are dope, but that would not be for him. I think that's what's good about this album, is that this is the first time in a long time where I was pushed to do something a little bit different than I've been doing with the last 3-4 projects, which was just aggressive Timberland hoodie, smash you in the face. And I love that all day. And I think we have some joints like that on the album, but this forced me to show my versatility, get some melodies happening, some more emotion, some more feeling, and nothing but good things come of that for a producer to kind of switch it up. The moment you start doing the exact same thing all the time, I think is when you burn out. So I like it, and now I'm even trying to take it to some other places with future sounds. So yeah.
The track Fight Song featuring Pharoahe Monch, it's again a perfect example of you understanding your artist that you're working with, because
Ace should have got co-production on that when I think about it. Just because when I made the original beat, there was drums in it, the whole thing.
It's not too late.
He gets it. He gets co-production on the subtractive suggestions that really made it the thing that it is, because I am known for drums. Me making beats with no drums, I mean, it might happen once in a while, but yeah, that originally the drums were rocking through the whole thing, and he was like, do this. Take the drums out here, bring them back in here, and then the drums went through another change. So his idea to remove the drums literally made that song much more emotional, because it's really about the vibes and their words for the verses.
And I was adamant, the original drums that you had.
Oh, he didn't like them. He was like, they cool. He's like, try and take it somewhere else. So I had some original break beats that my boy J-Zone played for me. Shouts to J-Zone, and it worked perfectly for the hook. But I just think it adds to the up and down, the epicness of it, because when the hook finally comes in with the drums and everything, it has a feeling.
Yeah.
When those first two parts of the first part of Pharoah's verse, but also the first part of your verse,
right.
That's to me highlights also you being able to use your voice as another instrument. During the writing process for this, I mean, when you know your voice is going to be that third, fourth, fifth, whatever instrument, do you have to write differently, or do you approach it differently? Do you approach the track differently?
Nah, I honestly, this is another one of those cases where the beat spoke to me. I couldn't write to the beat until he structured it the way I wanted, which was no drums in the verse. I couldn't write to it when the drums were in there. So once he, restructured it, and I had that section of music without the drums, that's when I was able to really, really get in there and figure out the lines. And it's so interesting because certain songs, I actually remember where I was when I started writing them or wrote most of it, and I was in my car driving on my way to the Bronx to speak to a school of junior high school kids, and that's where I came up with those first maybe 8 bars. Was like in the car.
Shouts to Paul Barman.
Shout to MC Paul Barman who gave me the idea to even do the song. He's the one who hit me up one day and was like, I think you should do a song about, where another MC is MS and you're kind of battling this other MC. And the idea, it was such a dope idea, but I didn't have a beat for it. I was like, I don't think I have anything for that, but if I come across something, then I'll consider it. And this beat was, I'm pretty sure you had given me this beat already, but it was the old way. And then as I thought more about it, I was like, this could actually work for that idea. And man, Paul Barman, thank you for the inspiration and the idea, and what a song.
How did you guys know Pharoahe? I mean, how did you guys know? I mean, it feels like
You can't just ask any MC to become multiple sclerosis. Like, I think we both, one of the good things about working with Ace and me is I think I could be a little more random, but it's not just he's dope, put him on the track. It's like, let's really think who would sound good on this, who's appropriate, what makes sense.
And who can pull it off.
Right.
Yeah. And that's, I'm fortunate enough to have worked with Pharoahe and have a relationship with him. And, it had to be some over-the-top, special skill set MC shit. And I knew he would get it, and I knew he could become the character we needed. And she sure did.
Like we said, this album kind of takes us on, I think, your hip hop journey.
Yes.
And you use that through skits, voicemails, etc.
Yes.
In terms of beats, how do you? I mean, you obviously have the vocal, right? So I could understand vocals more than I could understand beats. So to say, in terms of talking to me, how do you ensure that the listener, through your beats, are going on this kind of hip hop journey with you to New York?
I mean, you mean when I'm making them, when I'm mixing them?
I guess when you're making them.
I mean, the hard part is over once I make beats that Ace is inspired by. That's really the most difficult part, is because he's a picky guy, which is great. It forces me to really push it. Once we had those picked out and laying down songs, then I go into my nerd zones where kind of Ace fell back and he let me nerd out with the mixing and we would do drops together, but like really getting things sounding a certain way, and the clarity and mixing vocals, and the skits and all that was all was written by Ace, and the arrangement. But yeah, man, that's what I love to do. I love to mix, master, and be involved in how things can sound, make it sound big and better. And sonics are really important to me, although I'm convinced literally 20% of the world will notice the things that I do, and everyone just hears the same shit. Right. It's for us.
Still Lover, one of my favorite tracks on the album.
Mine too.
It's your ode to hip hop. Why now? Why have this track? And well, I know it was 2018 when it was released, but why have this track now? Why give that ode?
Ever since Common did his version of the same concept, I used to love her. I always thought that was a dope song, a dope concept, and it felt like after that many years, it was time to kind of do an updated version of it. From my own perspective, because hip-hop had gone through a bunch more changes from the time that Common was talking about it to now. There's been a lot of different, changes and things that the culture and the music has gone through. So I thought, let's talk about it in terms of right now and how she's gone from there to here. And so I that's what I did. I wrote it from that perspective, and that's one of my favorite tracks on the album as well.
Oh, what's your favorite way, from a kind of a producer point of view, to give your ode to hip hop?
My way to give my ode, I think, is just to not be whack and push myself to be as great as I can all the time. And studying, this is really important for me, but studying where all this came from, I feel like it's really important to study, respect, see where things came, how they're changing, and what I could do through my beats that could be different, you know, not really bite, but like take that energy and do my own thing, you know.
I mentioned Disposable Arts at the beginning for the intro, and you know, as I was listening to Still Love Her, I could only think of the track Hold You on that album, which was also another, you know, a letter to hip hop as well. And you mentioned it before in your answer, but what do you think for you what has been the major change from when you wrote Hold You in 2001 to Still Love Her now?
Well, Hold You was a little bit more of a specific song. I was rapping about the microphone, and it's amazing because to this day, a lot of people still didn't get that I was rapping, that the girl in the song was actually the microphone, and Jean Grey she rapped from the perspective of being the microphone.
Did you ask her to be a microphone?
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Love stories.
But it was just I think I was kind of in the same space mentally in terms of the technique that I used. You know, turning an inanimate object into a person. In both cases, it was a female. But for me as a writer, those are like great challenges from a writing standpoint, to see how well I can weave this love story and make people really listen to it on face value as a love story and really truly believe I'm talking about a female, and then find out later or after 10 listens that, oh wait, this is not about a girl. For me as the writer, that's the challenge, to be as creative as I can and to be as specific as I can and make really real people in to believing that I'm talking about a girl. And then that discovery at some later date when they find out, maybe at this interview, where they find out that it's, oh, not about a girl. Now I want to listen back and see all of the hints that were dropped and see what I missed. And when you listen back after knowing, you hear all of the.
You got a new appreciation.
Yeah, you hear it all.
New.
Yep.
The track American Me. All I can think of is like we're obviously in the era of a Trump presidency.
Yes.
How for both of you has it at all? How has the creative process, I guess, inspiration process changed or stayed the same, or does it even fucking matter with Trump being president?
It hasn't messed up my creative inspiration. It's definitely contributed to anxiety, stress, and anger in my life just by completely disagreeing with how he moves and how he views things, and his ideas is not my ideas. And I'm an immigrant. I'm Canadian in America, right. So it's especially important for people here on green cards to be aware of what he's doing, because it could definitely affect the future. For people that want to move here, and you know how we're looked at. Obviously, I'm white. It doesn't really apply to me like other immigrants that move here, but it's scary times. It's scary times. So,
I just I had to really be careful as I was writing this album, because I knew that I wanted to speak on some issues, some political issues, some social issues that were bothering me, but I didn't want to hit people over the head with a piano. Mm-hmm. And so what I tried to do was kind of sprinkle in thoughts and ideas throughout the album in different certain key songs, certain key moments. American Me being one of them, but I tried to do it from the standpoint of being more thought-provoking than preachy. And so you'll hear me ask questions on songs, but not answer them, because I'm leaving it up to the listener to hear the question and then to come up with their own conclusion as to what that answer to that question is. So it's just kind of my way of, creating dialogue within us, within ourselves. I don't necessarily give you my point of view on certain topics. I just raise the questions that we can, potentially talk about at a later date.
Do you think, just music in general, do you think it's become more important now, or is it the responsibility of music to continue to ask these questions?
It's always been important for artists in their music to ask questions, to push the envelope, to test the status quo. And I understand that not every artist is gonna feel comfortable doing that, feel qualified to do that. Maybe cats are a little bit too young. Maybe they didn't pay attention. They're not paying attention like that. I mean, I think about when I was 18, 19. I didn't care anything about politics. I didn't know what was going on. All I knew was, as long as it didn't, as far as I could tell, affect my day to day, I was good. So I mean, I think a lot of young people might, mentally might be in that place. But for those artists that have that platform and can do it, I think that it's absolutely important. It's part of music. It's always been part of hip hop to be socially conscious and to speak on topics. And hopefully, hip hop's voice will continue to do that on some level.
The last track on the album is your mom talking about your song Nostalgia, and it's a skit. So two questions: why leave us with a skit? But then also, what is for you? What's the importance of this track Nostalgia for you, in terms of your personal life and your hip hop career?
So many things about that song are important to me. It's definitely the first song that. If I had a song, like, I don't have a hit record in my career, but if I had a song, it's that one. But more importantly, it's the catalyst, I think, to this album happening. It's because of the love that song's received, and Ace has probably noticed over the years, we do it in the shows, and it was the idea of us making music seemed to be cool to people, and it definitely put the battery in the pack to discuss a full album. So. The video's got crazy love. It continues to grow. It's got like 7-8 million views, and yeah, it's a very important song for me.
Why, when your mom's talking in the skit, she's talking about the video. I'm just curious, why did you guys consciously make her talk about the video versus just the song itself?
I don't think that was anything it was probably just an Ace writing thing.
Yeah, it wasn't an it wasn't.
I overthought that one.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
No particular deep meaning behind it, but just that acknowledgement of my voice over his beats and how she recognized that was cool. Okay. Yeah. And then there we go.
Yeah, and that's, even though he wrote it, it's something she would have called me and said anyways, because she's just that type of person. So shouts to my mom. Love you.
A couple more questions. So obviously you're working together. You have this incredible album together. You're on the track Nostalgia. But what was, for you, Marco, what was that first Ace song you heard or verse that said, hey, I got to mess with this guy?
I definitely heard some of the older joints, like the Symphony was probably the first time I heard Ace, because I wasn't listening to hip hop when the Symphony came out. I don't even know how old I was, but I had discovered hip hop a little later, so I went back and did my research, like kind of like going to a library. But the album that resonated, He Knows It, is Disposable. When I moved to New York, I feel like it had been out. It came out around
01,
which is
same
exactly
year.
When I moved. So I remember going to Fat Beats to buy records. And Don't Understand, I remember I walked into Fat Beats one day and Don't Understand is just blaring, and I'm like, what is this? And then that album was really important to me because I connected to me moving to New York. So the irony of this album being a part of that time frame and me coming up to me now doing an album with him is so bugged out now that I think about it. But yeah, emotionally, Ace was going through some things during that time and probably didn't want to rap anymore and was trying to figure out the next move. And all that went into, like, I just feel the emotions. Tracks like Dear Diary, No Regrets, and just like when Acknowledge comes on during the shows, I still get like so hype as many times if we've played it. So yeah, that's that whole album is my shit. Good job, buddy. It's a good album.
Thanks, Marco.
And Ace, for you, what was the first? I know the story with him approaching you after a session with a CD that has been told. But besides the beats that were on there, was there something that like that he officially produced that you heard that kind of said, "All right, this guy knows what he's doing"?
It was the beat CD.
Yeah, it was really the initial beats that I heard, because what you don't know is that the original beat CD that he gave me, I didn't pick anything off that CD, but he sent me a follow-up group of beats. And on that CD, Nostalgia was on that CD, but and the song that I wound up doing with Big Noid from my album
Long Hot
Summer was on that CD. And the beat for You and I, which is one of the songs off this album, was on that CD.
Yeah, that beat is like old as shit. It got a little bit of a spruce up, but for the most part, that is.
I've held that beat
18 years.
No, not because you gave it to me.
I feel like I gave you that beat CD when you did that show in Toronto at the Opera House with EMC.
Around 04, 05.
Because that was, it was getting tossed around there for the EMC album, and everyone passed, and you're like, I like this, I'm going to keep it. Ace would keep pitching this beat. I think you probably maybe even pitched it for Edo album.
Not that one.
Not that one.
Not that one. The Get Shot beat I pitched for Edo.
Right. So yeah, You and I and Get Shot are...
I've held on to for a long time, but it just kind of shows you that I really felt like those were timeless beats. If I can hold on to a beat that long and 8 years later still feel it,
right,
and then write a song to it after 8 years, that lets me know that I made the right choice. And that's a lot of the music that Marco makes for me has been those kind of timeless joints, and he's good at that. He's good at that.
Last question for both of you. Is there and different answers, probably obviously, but is there one track on this album that kind of like defines, and probably is going to change, whatever, could probably change tomorrow, but defines kind of the mission of this, or the goal of this album?
Good question. I always struggle with this in terms of even just picking my favorite song. I think Ace Still Lover is his with confidence his favorite song.
Yeah, but he's asking a different question.
No, I know what embodies. No, I get it.
To me, it's Brooklyn. It's Brooklyn.
I might have to agree with that.
When I hear those pianos, that the music on that joint, it takes me to the streets of Brooklyn on a hot summer day. Everybody's out, the girls got the little, the spaghetti strap tops on, the short shorts. The cars are rolling by playing music.
And the drums come in and smash you in the face.
It's just so hot that nobody wants to be in the house. So everybody's outside of their house, and you can look up in the window and hear air conditioners going, and you can see water dripping from the air conditioners. Some people got fans in their windows, and it just feels like Brooklyn on a hot summer day, and it really sums up the whole entire album for me, anyway.
I can't even argue that. I'm just gonna cop out and agree with Ace on that one. It is. That's the defining song for the album.
Works for me. Marco Polo, Masta Ace, new album, A Breukelen Story, incredible album.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Thank you too for being.
Thanks to everybody for coming out.
Yes. Appreciate y'all.
We'll do meet and greet later. Don't worry about it.